Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today on the show, I've got our new friend Patrick. How you doing today, Patrick?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Jerry.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I know it's the morning out there. So, where are you, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm in California, Sacramento, just a few blocks from the capital.
Yeah. So, are you guys getting ready the same way we're getting ready? Like they're putting boards over the businesses downtown. The Capitol's getting a fence put around it.
Right.
You doing the same?
A lot of our downtown has been boarded up since the BLM protests. Still, but they are getting ready, of course, for the Capitol. And last week on the 6th, they had some fights between some of the MAGA people and protesters. So they're definitely prepared.
Yeah, we've got a big debate in our community right now where the Black Lives Matter want to go protest or don't want to go protest, but there are other kind of fringe groups. That all sounds like the wrong words. But the other associated ally groups are trying to go out to counter protest what's going to be happening. And I just want everyone to stay home and stay safe right now because I can't fight with these people that are storming the Capitol. Right. I mean, it's not going to be safe for our people. But anyways, why don't you tell us about yourself and some of your projects and what you're fighting for these days?
Yeah, so I consider myself a part-time activist, part-time journalist, although that's kind of a stretch. But I do cover a lot of politics within the Democratic Party. My main goal is exposing a lot of the propaganda and a lot of the methods behind misinformation that's spread out there, specifically relating to the Democratic Party. Not because I'm on the right of them. I'm on the far left of them. I want them to be the opposition party to the Republicans. And so for me, we're really let down by the Democratic Party more so because they're the team supposed to be representing us. So I don't focus my angst on the Republican Party nearly as much as I do on the Democrats. But as far as my projects go, I've just written my second book, the Yass, Kween Chronicles. And my first book was called An Inconvenient Douche, which was based on a parody account that I created in Twitterland after Peter Dow, who was in the 2016 election, one of the biggest, you would call him centrist propagandists, who basically he and his network of people with Correct the Record and some other groups were out to spread a lot of misinformation about Bernie and label him sexist and racist anytime they disagree with his policies. So I created this character, Peter Douche, instead of Peter Dow, and it became a pretty popular parody account. I had no intentions of writing a book at all. I went to Twitter to vent, to try to educate people, expose what's going on as much as I can in a different way than most people are doing. And then I was banned from Twitter. So after getting banned from Twitter completely unjustly, I always followed their rules. They have specific rules about what you have to do to be a parody account. And I followed them completely. So it sort of became I wouldn't say it. I don't know. The issue became a censorship issue in some respects. And so after that, I got asked to be on a few shows to discuss it. Went on the Jimmy Dore show, who's a hot topic right now himself on Twitterland, but we won't get into that, or maybe we will. But then at that point, I decided, I'm going to use this. I'm going to take the platform I've been given, which was this. I grew a large following on Twitter, and I'm going to try to expand it. And it wasn't really for my own purposes. It's just, hey, here's an opportunity, seize the moment and see what you can do with it and educate more people about this. So I decided to write a book, and that was the first book. And it was successful by some schmuck on Twitter standards. So I decided to write another book, and here we are with the Yass Kween Chronicles.
Yeah, I borrowed a copy. I love the cover. I think Joy make the cover?
No, actually, kudos to Danny Hellman. He's an artist that you can go find him at dannyhellman.com. But he's a leftist as well, but he did great work and exactly what we asked for. He's got some brilliant art that's not political, but he's done a lot of political stuff as well.
Okay. And I really, I love your cover on your Twitter account with the, at first I thought they were masks, but they're not. They're tape. They're shutting people up on YouTube and Twitter. I don't, how do you relate this to what is happening to Donald Trump, 45? I don't want to say his name, actually.
Right. Well, it's okay. So Twitter is not a good place for nuance. It's kind of an outrage machine where people just rage at each other. It's a great source for information as well, but it's not a nuanced place. My position on the Trump stuff is that, yes, he should be banned. Yes, we should get people on the right that are inciting violence off the platform. You should always deplatform Nazis. That's a no-brainer to me. The problem is, and this doesn't mean we shouldn't have done that, or it doesn't mean that Twitter shouldn't do that. But the problem is we know already that Joe Biden is going to use that as an excuse for the Patriot Act too, which they're working on. So we have to watch out where they go from here. And they've already been telegraphing that clampdowns on social media are coming. So the oversight of how that happens is never good. It's always to benefit big corporations and neoliberal interests that we have to be worried about. So we should all be scared of what's to come with the Patriot Act too. And Joe Biden, himself, he didn't write the Patriot Act, but it was based on legislation he tried to pass earlier. And he has considered himself the author of the Patriot Act and called himself that for a long time. So him telegraphing that now is something we should be afraid of.
Yeah, I saw one of your tweets once where you talked about we're going to lose ground here. Wait till you see the storming of the Capitol and what it does to our rights. And I really feel like, I take a lot of stance like you're taking with the Democratic Party. We're big Bernie supporters. Were you a Bernie supporter, or are you a Bernie supporter?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like we're going to lose a lot of ground, and that Biden is just, the other side of the coin in a lot of ways. And one of the things that they always happens is we talk about the Capitol storming, but we forget about the $2,000, or we forget about what the commitments were made. That's big on your mind right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut issue. Democrats basically won the Senate and won Georgia by promising $2,000 checks. So, the first checks went out on, I think the 5th, maybe. I'm not sure the date, but regardless, all three people, Joe Biden, Ossoff, and Reverend Warnock, promised specifically $2,000 checks. They said, we win, you get $2,000 checks. And now they're backtracking, which we predicted they would, but they're backtracking and saying, well, you got 600 already. We always meant 1,400, which was clearly not their intention. Their intention was to misrepresent that you were going to get 2,000, and then it worked and they won. And so they're backtracking.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of what I try to push back against, is that it's not just that they're backtracking, it's that the media helps them backtrack. The media gaslights people about it. So you've got all these pundits on Twitter right now who cover Democratic politics saying, this is ridiculous, people. Stop saying it's $2,000. It was always $1,400. And they're making real complicated arguments to get to the fact that well, the untrue fact that they
Yeah.
promised $1,400 instead of $2,000.
Yeah. So I'm gonna steer away from this for a little bit and get back to Patrick a little. Are you frozen up? We'll keep working through it. Where were you like born and raised? We always ask that question. If you want to answer, that is.
Oh, sure. I've pretty much lived in California my whole life. Born in Oakland, raised in Fairfield, California, just another hour away from there. And then moved up to Tahoe, and now I am back in Sacramento, California. So I'm literally about 5 or 6 blocks from the state capital here.
Yeah, we're about 8 blocks from ours right now. So yeah, exciting times, huh? So right. What brought you on this path to? I mean, I know you said what you did when you started the Twitter account and all of that, but what has you in politics? What got you into this? How'd you get here? Or reporting on politics.
I've always followed politics fairly closely, but I think a lot of people were really, really disenfranchised when they put a lot of faith into Obama. And so it was the first time, if you really followed a lot of what Obama did closely, and it's okay if people like Obama. There's a lot of Democrats that just aren't aware of a lot of the stuff he did. And he wasn't the worst president or anything like that. But immediately upon taking office, it was clear that he wasn't going to follow through with anything on his platform. I mean, they brought in, his whole cabinet was picked by the banks. So, the problem we have in politics, the number one problem is that the decisions being made on our behalf are being made by people who have financial interests in not helping people. So at the end of the day, Obama could talk about hope and change forever, but if every person he puts into power comes from the banks, you have a capitalism focused economy, which doesn't really care about regular people. And that's exactly what happened. So seeing that really got me to following all of this a little closer. And then of course, as a Bernie person, it's like, well, here's somebody who has a proven track record of actually his whole life fighting for the things that Obama was saying he was fighting for. And so you become a Bernie supporter, and being a Bernie supporter, if you follow it very closely, you become acutely aware of how the media misrepresents everything happening. And so you go from thinking MSNBC is a hero because they're focused on issues that matter to the left to, wow, MSNBC is really misleading people. And so that became important to me to amplify that viewpoint that, we are really being misled a lot by the mainstream media. And so I thought Twitter was one of the best places I could do that. And I'd already annoyed all my family and friends on Facebook. So it's like, I better just go somewhere else and do this.
That's funny. Do you see like a third party coming in? And is that important to you? Or do you just want to reform the Democratic Party?
Right. I mean, eventually we do need, the two-party system is never going to work very well for us. As you see with Trump, and that, if one side is always just a little bit more evil than the other side, and you just keep voting for the less evil party, there's no incentive for them to really change and reform. And so that's what you see with the Democratic Party is that, the right ran a literal Nazi. And so you just have to not be a Nazi. So if you're the not Nazi party, you can win. So yes, I do believe in third parties. The problem is to allow third parties to exist and have ballot access and be viable. You really need to reform some of the Democratic Party. You need to get more progressives in so that we can pass legislation for things like ranked choice voting. And you're not going to do that strictly from the outside. So I do support anyone inside the party that's progressive. And we're at the point where you've got the squad and enough people to vote as a block to make some of these things happen. They have the power to block any legislation they want now. So to me, I would like to see them act a little more aggressively against the Democratic Party. And at this point, they're still working with them and not calling out bad actors in the party as much as I'd like. But we'll see where they go. But I really want them to vote as a block, like the Tea Party did, and really seize their power. And we will see if that happens.
Are there big progressive issues that are important to you? Like, do you want to see a UBI? Do you want to see healthcare for all? I mean, I imagine
Right.
It sounded like a stupid question as soon as I said it.
Well, no, it's okay. I mean, a lot of people may not even know. I don't know what your audience is. It's a mix of people, so it is important to get that across. But for me, Medicare for all is the number one issue. I mean, if there's one thing that would equalize and make just life in general a little more fair for everyone here, it's not worrying about your healthcare bill. It's not having $1,000 a month healthcare bill. I mean, there's no reason we have to be in this situation. Every country on earth, more or less, has figured out the best system there is a universal healthcare system of some sort. And, you've got study after study showing it saves money. So there's really no excuse left. So that's really important to me. I mean, UBI, especially now, an emergency UBI, which is, universal basic income. I mean, it's absolutely necessary. There's no doubt about it. You need to encourage people to stay home. We're in a pandemic. As much as possible, people can't. So it's just a no-brainer. And to me, if you're not pushing for these things now, if you're not pushing for Medicare for all now in the middle of a pandemic, you're really going to fight for it. So I encourage everyone to fight like hell for it now, because this is the moment for it.
I keep feeling like we can't lose turf, and we're going to relax as a community. We're going to say, oh, we've got our savior Joe Biden in here. And exactly what you've been talking about, it's all going to start slipping away more with the Patriot Act. I've been reading Utopia for Realists, and I'm really starting to study Nixon almost implemented a UBI in the 70s, and the Democrats tried to raise how much the monthly allotment would be, and that created a fight that eventually killed the whole thing. And I almost felt like that's what they were trying to do with the 2000 versus the 1400, or the 2000 versus 600. It felt like smoke. It just felt weird, and that I had just been reading that, and then they used that ploy again.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing Democrats do, it's repeat the same losing tactics over and over again, and the winning tactics from their perspective. I mean, to stop progressives, they like to, gaslight people and label them racist or sexist somehow, and say things like Medicare for all is. I mean, today I was called racist on Twitter for pushing for the $2,000. Somehow that's racist that I'm asking for $2,000 from the white president that promised $2,000. I don't know how I got derailed with here, but it's amazing so the strategies they use to kill legislation are all sort of the same thing. It's racist, it's sexist. They fall back on, we can't afford to do it, but there's always endless money for wars. We have the money to do things. Federal spending doesn't even fund our government. So I mean, taxes, federal taxes don't really even fund most programs. So in essence, we can print money for a lot of this stuff. It's really ridiculous. But
I think, as we were talking about Obama, I mean, even, I like Obama. I like what you know, in a lot of terms, what he symbolized, as much as anything else. And Biden was right there. And a lot of bad happened underneath Obama. I mean, we were still at war. We still had big wars. None of that stopped. None of the things that, you know, Obamacare, I think, was a good step in the right direction, or the Affordable Care Act, but not enough yet. And when you could, I mean, it's a little difficult in today's climate to say something bad about Obama, because you might get called out as a racist, and now you're distracted with that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's where you have to keep it on policy, and you know, look, Obama walked into power with a veto-proof supermajority. I mean, he's the president, so he can obviously choose not to veto things. But they had a supermajority in both houses; they could pass anything they wanted. And we're basically in the same situation here with Biden, although the margins are pretty small, which is why, you know, a lot of these blue dog Democrats, like Joe Manchin, really work against Democratic Party. You know, his name is going to be, he'll be somebody you hear a lot about for the next few years, because he and two or three other basically Republican Democrats are going to try to kill all legislation, and they're the scapegoat for why Democrats can't pass things. They will be.
Yeah. Do you, if you look out, let's just say 4 years after the Biden term or the first term, what's it look like for you if you get what you want?
I mean, 4 years from now, Medicare for all is the first thing. We definitely need Medicare for all. We need a Green New Deal, which comes with the jobs program. I would like a federally guaranteed jobs program. You know, we should have a $20 minimum wage at least. There's really no reason to fight for 15 now, when, you know, it would be something like $34 an hour if you know, somebody can fact check me on that, but the minimum wage shouldn't be anywhere near 15. It should be at least double that, based on inflation. So in a perfect world, that's what happens in 4 years. You know, I would like to see defunding of the police. I think we need to take and offset a lot of the roles of the police force to other departments. You know, there's no reason police should be answering mental health calls. That's just putting everyone at risk. There's a lot, you know. I mean, I'm a white guy in Sacramento, and as white as you can see, and I've had tons of bad experiences with the police. And imagine, given their racism, how much worse it is. So, you know, there's no reason. And Biden is using this. This is another example. Biden is using everything happening now to give more money to the police forces. I mean, sure, it's going to be for a lot of training, but you're giving them more money when you should be pulling money away.
Yeah. And a lot of that training is going to be the check the box type of training. Hey, he went to sensitivity. He must not be racist anymore. You know, right. It's I'm really worried about that increase. Even the local politics here in Lansing, they're starting to talk about increasing funding to the police as almost a step to decrease it. But I don't know. It's never works that way, right? It never goes backwards.
No, exactly. So. No, and you've got, you know, and that's where the riots come in. You know, the Capitol incident. You know, they're going to pivot from having to protect against the you know, crazy MAGA people and the racists, to BLM and progressive protests that are getting out of hand. And, you know, if you expand the power of the government to shut down protesting in any way, it's going to hurt progressives. So we need to really watch out for that. And that'll be part of Patriot Act 2 as well. Protesting, social media. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do every damn day to kind of push towards that mission or that vision, I guess?
Wow, it's amazing that my life got me to this place, but my answer is going to be tweet.
Yeah.
Which is so I get outraged every day. I really do. I go and I read Twitter, I read articles, I watch shows, progressive shows, and I try to pass on that outrage. I also try to pass it on in a humorous way with the parody stuff, because I think that's a way that we all need a break from. We're all so raging mad, especially after 4 years of Trump, that for some people it's just a different, more approachable way to get their news and information.
Yeah. Well, someone answered one of your questions, that the 1968 minimum wage adjusted to inflation today should be $24 an hour, which I think is a data point. I'm not sure, in different places, the cost of living is different. And I always think of it in terms of, if I'm going to work all day, I should be able to at least survive. And so there should be a living wage, built into it as well. But thank you, Jeremiah, for looking that up and putting that out there.
Yeah. And as a Californian, I mean, $24 an hour will get you an apartment.
Yeah.
And
a roommate probably to help.
Probably with the roommate.
Food. Yeah. So on the show, we always daisy chain the show together. And yesterday, I had confusion with Joy, who's your co-author. Is she co-author? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of your book. And so we rescheduled, and I got a second grader to come in and talk to me about her life during the pandemic and how schooling's going virtually and all of that. And she draws and she writes, and she draws all the time, but she gets stuck writing, and she wants to write songs. She wants to write poetry, stuff like that. She wants me to ask you, how do you find inspiration for what you're going to write or what you do write?
Yeah, interesting. So I'm also in grad school for industrial design, which is another creative industry. And so we do a lot of that is important, because new ideas is everything in industrial design, and looking at issues in a different way is very important. So I would say get out there and expand yourself, like read other books, look into fields that aren't related to what you want to write about at all. But just have your book in mind, and just look at other sources, find inspiration in some way, and there's a lot of stuff creatively you can do to just think about things differently. I mean, it's silly, but like sometimes they suggest like getting underneath a table, like go sit under your table, get in a new environment. Just look at things differently somehow. And like, you're going to write about, I don't know, what does she write about? Do you remember?
Well, she's trying to write songs, so I have no idea what it would be. I mean, she's only 7, so
right. So she could think of an artist that she likes, a musician, and pretend she's her and write a song, or pretend she's someone else and write a song. Like, get out of her own head about being judged on her own stuff. Just have fun with it, I don't know. Creatively, you just have to get out of whatever your own block is and approach things differently. And don't be afraid to fail. That's the other thing. In industrial design, you make 10,000 drawings to come up with 3 ideas. So just write a lot. Just go nuts, and don't judge yourself while you're doing it.
I used to write a lot, and I used to keep a journal, and I would just basically do whatever was in my mind, just start writing, and maybe something gem would come out of it. But it was just really about writing. Do you think that, like for you, does Twitter do that for you? I mean, are you in a writing mode when you're writing your tweets?
Yeah, I mean, especially on the parody account, it's there's something about being in character that just you're taking on a different voice. So it is a creative challenge. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's cathartic on its own for me, and I think if it's cathartic for me writing it, it's cathartic to some people when they read it as well. So there's, writing hits people in a lot of different ways. I don't know, but
Yeah. Do you sometimes tweet from the wrong account? Like you're writing in the parody in your own?
Yeah, I have done that. I've gotten a lot better at it, but I certainly have done that. Yeah.
So tomorrow on the show, we have, so we're going to keep daisy chaining. So I would like you to pass a question on to Luna Brown, and they are an advocate in the mental health space within the LGBTQ community. Luna is a male to they. He's non-binary. So what question would you like to have me pass on to Luna?
Interesting. Okay. What would you like your coworkers to know about your transition that would help you relate to them at work better? Because I'm sure you get the weird questions you don't want. And, but I think a lot of people are just, it's usually ignorance when it comes down to people that treat people poorly in the LGBTQ plus, especially in the trans community space. Yeah. So, how could I, as an ally, if I work with you and you're transitioning, how can I, as an ally, help you at work?
I like that a lot. I think they're gonna have a very good answer for that. And I always turn this around to my guest, but I don't think you're trans, so I got to rephrase this question. And do you have coworkers? Are you working right
no,
now?
I'm a full-time student, although I'm not in school right now because of COVID. But I have one semester left. But yeah, I mean, I have worked with a trans person before.
Yeah. So. Did you do something as an ally that helped them?
Interesting. Not specifically. I mean, I just remained their friend, but I wasn't advocating on their behalf, I would say. But I also didn't, I'm in California, pretty liberal in the classic sense of the word, open-minded state, and where I worked was very open-minded. So I didn't personally see any resistance to them. So, yeah. I didn't necessarily have an opportunity, but maybe I was missing a lot of stuff. Maybe if I had opened up to them more, maybe they were going through something I could have helped with. So,
yeah. I think that, I haven't been to California in this community. I've been to California a lot, but not really in the capacity that I am right now. And so I was really there for business all the time. So it was a hotel, a factory, and then home. And but in Lansing, we're still working on pronouns, right? Just we're at that phase of educating the public that no, it is important to use they with Luna, or it is important to use he with Ezra. And I think that's a good step for at least our little hick town that you guys all fly over.
Right. Well, even being in California, although I wasn't working at the time, so maybe to hit the workplace sooner than I saw it. But the first time I was introduced to people announcing their pronouns when they first meet was at a Bernie rally. I was volunteering at a Bernie rally, and they had everyone go around and say a little about themselves and their pronouns. So it's not like California is necessarily as liberal as people think. I think we just are generally a little more open-minded, in some areas.
Yeah. We probably have people sitting at that table saying, why do I have to say my pronoun? Where maybe you don't.
Granted, it's a Bernie rally, so you would expect nothing but the best people, especially in the volunteer group. So
yeah, the Fledge here, which is my facility, We were the biggest grassroots Bernie organization in the U.S. this up until March.
Nice.
And when we kind of shut down and Bernie shut down. And I just miss it so much. I was so ready to have Bernie as our president.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I actually had another book almost completely written, but I wrote it all from the perspective of a pundit that was exposed so much for his lies about Bernie and Bernie won that he was out of work. But it was assuming Bernie won, and that was just, you think I would know better as a progressive too. But I'm ever the optimist, even though I'm a terrible doom and gloomer as well. It's a weird mix, but yeah, I really thought Bernie was going to get away with it this time. But
yeah, I was so confident. And this really screwed up a lot of plans, huh?
Indeed.
So as we start to wrap up here, what would you like to take us out with? You got any things we should go fight for? Any advice? Any?
Yeah, I mean, obviously wear a mask, be safe out there. As COVID, declines a little bit and it's a little safer, we really need to take to the streets and put maximum pressure on the Biden administration to help people. I mean, Medicare for all is urgently needed now. That's step number one. Green New Deal, the climate crisis isn't going away. It's just as bad as ever. And, a jobs program tied to the Green New Deal is urgent. And if there's a time to do it, it's now, when you've got all these people out of work that need jobs. You've got, all these people lost their health care. We've got a system that keeps your healthcare tied to employment, which needs to go away. So, I mean, just because Biden's in office, it almost means we need to be louder, because if we sleep on it, nothing's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, the public, they tend to say, well, he's not Trump. Well, he's not, we don't have, it's nice that we don't have that racist guy up there anymore. And that's great, but it's not going to get us Medicare for all. It's not going to help people that need jobs. It's not going to do anything. It's nice. Great. Trump's gone. Okay, well, let's get stuff done. So we need to put a lot of pressure on. We can't sleep on it.
Yeah, I love that advice. And everyone out in my crowd, you're going to be hearing me say that for the next 4 years, because I do not want to lose an inch of turf with this guy in here. And it's not the time to sleep. Now, wake back up, get out there, get rid of, the defund the police. I love that. I love UBI. I love Medicare for all. We've got to continue to attack the systemic or racism that we have. All of these things are getting in the way. And I think you say this too. It's a war on the poor, right? And
this really is a class war. I mean, that's the thing. Both parties are not interested in really helping the poor that much. Their donors are going to fight all the policies that we need to put in place to help the poor. So, and you can't look at the economy doing okay when it as a barometer when, great, Wall Street's loving the pandemic. How's our country doing? Everyone's dying, so the economic indicators of what makes an economy great now don't represent people. Poor people, even the middle class. I mean, I don't know. We just need to reset the system and fight for as many, socialist programs. Whether you're a socialist or not, we need, the world has seen that programs like universal health care benefit everyone. So there's no excuse anymore. Fight for it. Yeah,
fight for it. So thank you so much for being on the show and taking your time. And I can't wait to watch you get back on Twitter here in a few minutes probably and go back at it. So thank you for being part of that loud voice. We really appreciate it. And having people like you on the side of us is great to me. So thanks for helping to make the community stronger too.
Great. Thanks for all you're doing. And I appreciate being here. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. And stick with me for 1 sec, if you don't mind. See everybody. Another episode of Every Damn Day tomorrow at 2:00, and we will have Luna Brown talking about mental health.